Hello there, I'm George Shaw. I am the composer of Abominable and The Invisible City. And today I'm going to take you behind the scenes to see how the music is created for the show. So the show returns where the Abominable movie left off, and we see Everest returning to the city with the kids, and they start to discover other magical creatures within their city, and they decide they have to help them using Yi and Everest's musical powers. Often I think of the music as bringing the characters in the world to life, and in this case the music actually is creating the magic on screen, literally. Yi has this childhood storybook on mythical Chinese creatures, and she uses that as a resource for figuring out what all the creatures they're dealing with. And so every time she brings that out, that's like a moment to connect these creatures with like the history of China. And so that's particularly one of the moments where using Chinese instrumentation was really helpful. In order to bring some Chinese authenticity into the score, I very consciously tried to use a lot of Chinese instruments. It kind of started with the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon when I heard an instrument I didn't recognize, and I thought, what is that gorgeous sound? And discovered it's an instrument called the bawu. It sort of looks like a bamboo flute. It has like a metal reed in it, and the sound is sort of, to me, like a cross between a clarinet and a duduk. And from there, I wanted to learn more about Chinese music. I was very fortunate to be accepted into the very first Universal Composers Initiative in 2018. So that gave me an opportunity to meet execs all across the studios, and including DreamWorks. So they reached out to me to audition for this particular show. We were all meeting on Zoom. And so I'm here in my studio, and I was able to just pull out an instrument and be like, oh, this is the Chinese bawu, here's what it sounds like, and I'd love to use it on the show. So it really just encouraged them that I had such a specific sound in mind that I was just excited to explore. And fortunately, the producers loved it and hired me, and I got to write a whole season of music using a lot of Chinese instruments. Bringing in the Chinese instruments, I typically sort of wait for special moments, particularly where we're dealing with a mythical Chinese creature or just stuff that had to do more with Chinese culture. So one of the first things I ever wrote was Fenghuang's theme, which is the magical phoenix. And it was particularly inspired by the Chinese pentatonic scale. I liked it so much that I actually expanded it beyond just being Fenghuang's theme and becoming the magical creatures theme, so you really hear it all throughout the series. I was also able to record myself playing some Chinese wind instruments and the lion drum, which I actually specifically used in some Chinese New Year's episodes where that's the actual thing that you would play on a Chinese New Year when they're doing the lion and dragon dancing. And I actually have a background in performing with a group that would do lion and dragon dancing, so I brought that experience directly into doing that music with the Chinese drums, so that was a ton of fun. I was very blessed to work with Stephanie Yu, who is a solo violinist who played all the violin parts where the character Yi is playing. And she is just an incredible soloist and musician and just really brings the playing to life. I think there's sort of a history in Hollywood, scores that there is a certain sort of stereotype sound that we hear that is very inauthentic. I feel like bringing authenticity into the sound of a score, it just makes it more realistic, more relatable to wider audiences versus relying on these Hollywood tropes that have been used over and over. Growing up, I never saw Asian characters in any of the cartoons that I watched as a kid, and so I never quite felt like I fit in, and so I sort of lacked confidence. And so the fact that this exists is great for future generations. That I think a lot of Asian American kids will grow up feeling like they belong and that they can see themselves in the world because of this show. Growing up, I was the worst kid in terms of hating Chinese school and being forced to learn Chinese language and culture. So much that I actually rejected it, and it actually pushed me into taking music more seriously, because that was like my ticket out of Chinese school was youth symphony rehearsals were at the exact same time. I'm sort of glad I kind of came back around, and this stuff is actually cool. It's not just something that was not my culture being forced on me by my parents. And that's when I came to realize there is an Asian American culture that is the best of both worlds. My hope is that seeing this culture on screen will help kids like myself to realize that it's not uncool. You know, it's certainly something to embrace.